Sorry. No, just kidding. That was a total joke. But my apocryphal reading was First Maccabees, and it was long. It wasn't my most enjoyable read ever, but there was some good history in it, and certainly some even some spiritual insights that are helpful for Christians today. Um, I enjoyed reading about how Alexander the Great he came to power after he killed the Persian King Darius, and it stated that Alexander was exalted and his heart was lifted up, which I'll mention in a spiritual insight that I got out of it. But then it went on to talk about Antiochus Epiphanes and how he was obviously a very evil ruler as well, and he was conquering and making a kingdom for himself. Um, Antiochus caused Israel to commit a bunch of evil acts and turn against God, and then it started going through righteous man after righteous man who God would raise up in Israel to call out to his people to try to turn them back to him. And that was I always enjoy reading about leaders who God calls up to bring his people back. So that was enjoyable. Like I mentioned, there are several spiritual insights that can be taken from the book of First Maccabees. I will mention the four that I put in my paper. The first one is pride comes before a fall. It starts off with Alexander the Great and says how his heart was, he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. Well, then right after that, at least in the text, it seems as though he got sick, and then he soon died, and so um, it seems to be from what the text says that because of his pride, he got sick and died, and so pride comes before a fall. The next spiritual insight was sin leads to more sin. Alexander the Great was a sinful man, a sinful ruler, and he did things to accomplish his own good and his own greed. And then he gave his kingdom to four other sinful men who went out and did evil things. And then Antiochus Epiphanes, who was just an utterly sinful, wicked ruler, he came from those four rulers. And so sin led to more sin, which leads to more sin, and it just compiles. And that's sin only leads to more sin. So don't sin. Okay. And then we also see men who were blessed by God because they sought to be and do righteousness. God blessed men who were seeking to be righteous and do righteousness. And that's a great spiritual truth, that God will bless his people for doing righteousness. And then finally, God's people will never go away. I saw that as a spiritual truth, that God's people will never go away. Even though all these evil rulers and wicked leaders were trying to get people to go away from God and destroy. They were trying to destroy God's people. God always rose up a godly leader to bring his people back to him. And yes, some people were destroyed. Many people did leave God, but there was always a remnant. There was always a remnant that would never go away, because God is going to protect his people. God's people will never go away. So First Maccabees was the book, and it was long. Not my favorite read, but I got some good stuff out of it. I enjoyed reading some of the history, and yeah. So anyway, thanks. Bye bye.